Welcome to another episode of Battlefield 4 Hardcore Meta, a series covering all Battlefield 4 primary and sidearm weapons in a specifically hardcore context. In this episode, we'll be covering two LMGs, the U-100 Mk5 and the RPK-12, the most long-range, highly controllable, and highly precise LMGs in the game. Starting with how to unlock these guns, the U-100 is the default LMG in the game, so you'll have access to it right away. The RPK-12, however, is unlocked through a series of 3 assignments. Before you can actually start on these assignments, you need to reach a rank of 10, which won't take you very long. Following that, you need to complete the Support Basic assignment, where you'll have to get 7 kills with any light machine gun and perform 16 ammo resupplies. Then you will need to complete Support Veteran, which requires an additional 8 kills with any light machine gun and 17 more resupplies. And finally, Support Expert, requiring 50 ammo ribbons, 200 kills with any light machine gun, and 10 light machine gun ribbons. The totals for each assignment are not tracked until you've actually unlocked the assignment, but assuming you do these assignments at perfect efficiency, you'll have gotten 215 LMG kills total and resupplied teammates 433 times. Largely, this just means playing the support class with LMGs and properly resupplying teammates. It will take some time, but it is not a particularly difficult set of assignments. Now let's go over the common traits between these two LMGs in the context of LMG options more broadly. To start, the main stat these two LMGs share is the lowest possible minimum spread for fully automatics of 0.2 degrees. There are other full autos that share this stat, but these two guns are mainly defined by their overall accuracy, and there is only one other LMG with this level of accuracy, the RPK, but it has noticeably higher recoil in bloom. This high level of starting accuracy permits you to fully take advantage of the rest of the high controllability and low bloom stats we'll be going over later. Your first shots in a burst are likely to hit if your aim is true. That said, if you find yourself mag dumping, these two guns also have the lowest possible maximum aim spread for LMGs of 1.8 degrees. Keep in mind, this is still terrible accuracy and is almost entirely irrelevant for the U-100. You can fire 21 shots without stopping before reaching the maximum spread, assuming a standard barrel and fired stationary without a bipod. The U-100 has a low magazine size for an LMG of 30 and slow reloads, meaning it's not particularly good for suppressive fire. However, when using the RPK-12, if you are heavily suppressing a lane while aiming down sights, this has a fringe benefit of keeping your late shots from missing the broadside of a barn at least. It, however, is still not recommended as a tactic. For a point of comparison, this is a level of accuracy that is slightly worse than a typical PDW's minimum hipfire cone. They also have access to the best available LMG recoil decrease of 18 degrees a second. Paired with their already low recoil, this makes them even more controllable. Other than these two, only 2 other LMGs share this stat. While they do not benefit from a lower move penalty as a result of their slow ADS move speed and high accuracy, they have a effectively lowest moving spread possible for LMGs. However, despite this, I don't advise ADS strafing while firing. You move so slowly anyway, and these LMGs have slow firing rates. Missing shots can seriously harm your ability to win gunfights. The only time you maybe can consider this is if you are slowly retreating and suppressing to discourage chasing enemies. Among LMGs, they also have the most accurate hipfire cone available, though a few others share this stat. This does do a decent job making up for the slow RPM and low damage. The actual hipfire performance is solidly above average for LMGs. However, it's still only useful in emergencies. And finally, their damage model, which is 100% exactly the same between the two. They have the standard low damage model for LMGs. A good way to think of them is essentially as a 5.56 assault rifle turned into an LMG, and they often play that way. You can get a kill with 3 shots anywhere to the body out to 34 meters, the same as a standard damage profile for assault rifles. If you land nothing but chest shots, this extends out to 47 meters, which is also similar to the assault rifle's 45 meters for the same feat. A headshot and chest shot results in a kill out to 54 meters, again similar to standard assault rifle damage profiles. That results in a kill up to 51 meters for the same feat. At any range the bullet is still flying. It takes 4 shots to kill a target anywhere to the body, or 2 if you manage 2 consecutive headshots. Most LMGs have this damage model, but it's also the weakest damage model for LMGs, and paired with the 2 almost slowest firing rates in the game, these weapons end up having the slowest times to kill for LMGs. These are not good for aggressive close-range fighting. The next set of stats we need to look at are similar. These stats aren't precisely the same between the two, but they are close enough that they generally tend to perform similarly in these respects. These 2 weapons have some of the slowest RPM in the game, and this results in some of the slowest times to kill. The U-100 with an extremely slow 590 RPM, and the RPK-12 just eking out ahead of that with 600 RPM. In fact, the only full auto weapon to fire more slowly is the M60E4, which kills in fewer shots at most ranges, and thus has a faster time to kill in general. Another similar stat is the 2 weapons' very low upwards and horizontal recoils, with the U-100 having the lowest overall recoil values of any LMG, ranking 2nd place for the lowest upward recoil of any fully automatic in BF4 with 0.2, and 1st place for lowest overall horizontal recoil of 0.18. To top it off, the U-100's horizontal recoil is even in both directions, making it extremely straightforward to control. The RPK-12 is not too far behind, ranking 3rd place among LMGs for upwards recoil of 0.27 and 2nd place for overall horizontal of 0.22. Though the RPK-12's horizontal recoil is lopsided to the left, pulling 75% more strongly in that direction than the other. Regardless, controlling either of these LMGs is a breeze. Core to these guns' function, the spread increase and decrease stats are the lowest in class, and generally lower than any other full auto. The U-100 takes the LMG crown with 0.077 degrees in spread increase per shot, and 17.9 in spread decrease per second unfired, with the only full automatic having better bloom and fade stats being the PP2000, a PDW with much worse minimum accuracy. Suffice to say, you can long burst these LMGs and maintain great accuracy for mid-range combat. For longer range shots, you don't need to put much time between bursts to maintain accuracy. These firearms' first shot recoil stat is relatively similar. The multiplier, however, is fairly different, with the U-100 actually having a misleadingly numerically worse multiplier of 1.5x to the RPK-12's 1.35x. However, because the U-100's recoil is otherwise so low, the effective first shot recoil is still overall less than the RPK-12's first shot. Doing the math, the U-100's first shot upwards recoil ends up being 0.3 to the RPK-12's roughly 0.36, 20% worse. Don't get the wrong idea. The RPK-12 is still generally better than most other LMG options in terms of recoil. Doing short bursts with these guns is controllable, regardless. Now let's go over the major differences between the guns and what those differences mean. Probably the most drastic difference is magazine size and resulting kill capacity, and also resulting overall ammo reliability. The U-100 has 30 plus 1 shots, and the RPK-12 has 60 plus 1 shots, double the capacity. The U-100 has the worst ammo reliability of any LMG. In fact, it ranks 55th place out of 58 in a comparison with all other fully automatic weapons for overall ammo reliability. This is moderately alleviated by the fact that you have functionally infinite ammo, and as a result can more reliably stick to its tactical reload by obsessively reloading when safe. But this only helps so much. This really restricts the U-100 to exclusively a long-range full auto DMR style role, away from the center of combat where you can safely take cover from returning fire for frequent and fairly long reloads. Meanwhile, the RPK-12 can generally safely stay aggressive, having plenty of kill capacity with its notably superior reload speeds to top it off. These two guns have very fast reloads for LMGs, with the RPK-12 having the fastest reload among LMGs for both tactical, 2.4 seconds, and empty, 3.3 seconds. What this means is that since you don't have to worry about reloading too early because you have the ammo box giving you functionally infinite ammo, the RPK-12 with its 60-round magazines combined with the strategy of frequent reloading makes it feel like a gun that has absolutely no meaningful downtime compared to other LMGs, or for that matter, other guns and other weapon classes in hardcore where ammo might be more scarce. The U-100's reloads are significantly less impressive, but still solidly fast in comparison to other LMGs, with reloads of 2.75 seconds tactical and 3.9 seconds for empty. Similarly to the tactic I advise for the RPK-12, you should reload the U-100 often, as the empty reload is very punitive, and that smaller 30-round magazine can make ending up dry somewhat likely if you are not careful. Like previously emphasized, it has the worst overall ammo reliability of any LMG. As a result, it is not a weapon you can safely use in the thick of major battles. A major strength of the U-100 is its bullet velocity. It has the best bullet velocity of any fully automatic, let alone LMGs, of 700 meters per second, and is second only to the Scout Elite bolt-action sniper when you look at every primary in the game in this regard. This makes landing shots at distant ranges on dodging and sprinting targets much easier, and makes taking down targets who are hopping from cover to cover a much easier task as well. This velocity also helps in suppressing snipers before they even have a chance to take a shot, making the U-100 great for acting as a means to counter snipers, as the resulting suppression from very fast-moving bullets will generally be enough to make it unlikely they'll land a hit on you. The RPK-12's velocity is less impressive at 600 meters per second, which is perfectly serviceable for mid-range, and even occasional long-range shooting, and better than the average full auto, but it is on the low end, looking at the LMG meta. The final stat and major difference for us to go over is the weapon's deploy time. Generally speaking, LMGs are on the sluggish end of things for deploy time, where even the fastest among them are still slower than basically every other gun, and that's where the RPK-12 comes in. At 0.85 seconds, the RPK-12 is tied for the top spot in the stat for LMGs with two other options, the L86A1 and QBB95-1. It otherwise doesn't beat any records, but it does make it so switching to the weapon after, say, using your sidearm or deploying an ammo box is a little safer. The U-100 unfortunately suffers here like it suffers in its ammo reliability, and is tied for worst in class with the M249 with a whopping 1.3 seconds to deploy. This also turns out to be the worst possible deploy time for any primary weapon, so if you plan on pulling out the U-100, you better not be doing so mid-combat, as that will almost certainly result in your death. With the stats out of the way, let's go over my build suggestions. For barrel and grips, the RPK-12 should get a stubby/potato grip with a heavy barrel. Unlikely to be a surprising suggestion, this doubles down the RPK-12's overall high accuracy and capitalizes on its low recoil, allowing you a large amount in combat flexibility, from long-range shots to close-range headshotting and more effective long bursts and pre-fire for mid-range. You generally shouldn't move and fire, however. Come to a complete stop to maximize the RPK-12's aimed accuracy unless you are within hipfire range. For the U-100, I suggest a bipod and heavy barrel or flash hider. To take advantage of the weapon's very fast velocity, you want to turn this gun into a full auto DMR, and the most accurate possible combination is a bipod and heavy barrel. With this setup, you need to be sure to play very methodically and stick generally to elevated sniping positions with cover, and after getting a kill or two, you might also want to disengage the bipod to regain mobility. The longer the range, the better with this particular build. I also found the flash hider acceptable, as its penalty of slowed spread fade is negligible, and will make it harder for your targets to identify where you are shooting from, since you are lacking muzzle flash. The biggest drawback here is more that you are giving up the heavy heavy barrel's minimum spread reduction, so it's not something I recommend until you are very comfortable with the gun. Use the flash hider for situations where your targets might be a little closer, and try to exclusively use the gun with the bipod. For accessories, the laser sight is the obvious choice. If canted sights were an option, I would have suggested those, as those would be more relevant. Unfortunately, those are not an option. At the very least, in sudden emergencies, if you lack time to switch to your sidearm, or say the supports XM25 dart shotgun gadget, you can turn the laser on to help take care of close-range threats with somewhat improved effectiveness. As for sight suggestions, considering how accurate these guns are, there probably aren't many fully automatic options that would be a better candidate for a 4x scope. In particular, I suggest the JGM4, as its crosshair makes targeting more straightforward and the housing is fairly distant from the center, giving you a more open view of the spot you're aiming at. As for sidearms, I generally found the CZ75 an excellent choice for the U-100, as it combines a number of stats that help shore up many of the U-100's weaknesses. It has a fast deploy time of 0.6 seconds, helping to deal with the U-100's poor ammo reliability, a fast bullet velocity, viable for mid-range emergencies, and a one-shot headshot kill in close range, or a two-shot kill with chest shots within 12 meters if the target doesn't have the defensive field upgrade, making it a decent, dedicated close-range alternative primary. With the RPK-12, you could probably get away with a lot of options for the sidearm, since it has such excellent ammo reliability. So you might as well pick something that can do some quick work in close range. The SW40 is the fastest firing revolver and has the lowest recoil among the high caliber pistols as well, making it one of the most spammable high damage CQC sidearms in the game. Just be wary of its slow reloads. That said, they're generally long range guns, so you could also use the sidearms often used with bolt actions and DMRs for close range combat, the G18, 93R, and Shorty 12G. But remember that the XM25 dart is a better option in close range than any of those, and there is little point in having both. When it comes to gadgets, the support class is pretty simple. You should always run the ammo box. Always. Not only does it act as the main way this class supports your team in terms of resources, it also has a major benefit in hardcore in providing functionally infinite ammo that has the additional purpose of allowing you to reload even if you only fired a few shots without worry of ammo loss. A major appeal for these two in particular is their faster than average tactical reloads for LMGs. Generally speaking, the ammo pack is much less useful as it lacks passive refill for stationary combat and only supplies bullets, not grenades or gadgets. The ammo pack might be in theory more useful if you play a more aggressive close range support class with a carbine or shotgun though, where staying stationary is less acceptable. As for the second gadget, you pretty much should always run the C4 in vehicle-heavy maps as support. C4's ability to deal enough damage to outright kill a main battle tank in a single detonation, assuming you've placed 3 of them, is invaluable, and as a result, C4 should always be on hand for when opportunities to take one down presents themselves. Also keep in mind that you can load up a small transport vehicle, like a motorcycle or quad with the C4, and effectively act like an infantry-guided anti-tank missile by driving quickly towards a tank, jumping out of the vehicle the last second, and detonating the C4 once the booby-trapped vehicle gets close enough to the tank. This can be actually one of the most reliable ways of taking a tank down. Both of these LMGs are generally effective in large maps, so C4 will likely be the gadget you should take. The Claymore is a notably poor and dangerous choice, as you're almost as likely to kill a friendly with your Claymore as an enemy, if you do not place them very, very carefully away from locations your team is likely to pass through. For maps that only really have light vehicles, the XM25 Airburst can be a dual-role gadget as a decent mid-range anti-infantry weapon and a decent way to contribute some damage to light vehicles, or maybe chip damage to an IFV if you have the nerve or an immediate escape route. Just keep in mind it's definitely more of a mid-range infantry killer than an anti-vehicle weapon. For infantry-only maps, the Dart XM25 can help alleviate the short-range hangups these two LMGs have, though I do not suggest using the U-100 in infantry-only maps at all, other than maybe Lumpini Garden. The RPK-12, however, can perform acceptably in such a context. It just generally benefits from some form of close-range companion. The ballistic shield is generally only useful in 3 situations: small infantry-focused maps, protecting against fire in long sight lines where your vulnerable sides can't be attacked from a flank, or if used in conjunction with a fast-draw sidearm and smoke grenades to push. Then there's the MP-APS, most immediately useful in protecting you while you use a tow launcher. However, not only can you use the MP-APS with tow launchers, it can also be effective if you swap for an engineer kit from a dead soldier. If you plan ahead, this can be fairly effective. First, find a good rocket sniping perch, place both an ammo box and the MP-APS down ahead of time. Next, kill an enemy engineer or wait for one of your friendly engineers to die and pick up their kit. Step 3, use your newly engineered tank cannon immune infinite ammo rocket sniping perch to harass tanks. It can also be significantly effective in protecting friendly armor as well as in a defensive role in rush. Further, keep in mind, the device does not despawn when you die, so you don't need to concern yourself with replacing it the moment you redeploy, like an ammo box. The indirect weapons tend to be very safe weaponry, but often don't provide the damage output to take down tanks quickly enough. However, they can be very effective in protecting objectives to the point of arguably breaking the rush game mode. As for grenades, I suggest the M67 for the U-100. You want something that can both deal with or even discourage close-range rushers, and the M67 is good for this task. It can also potentially help cover for a reload in a pinch. For the RPK-12, the RGO helps cover for the weapon's immediate close-range weakness the best, and at middle ranges finish off a target that runs behind cover. For field upgrades, the U-100 goes well with the defensive selection. Defensive improves survivability in general in a few ways that notably benefit the U-100's playstyle. The starting armor reduces the effective ranges for many of the sidearms if they are going for chest shots, most notably for shotguns. Carbines, at their minimum range damage, will take an extra bullet, and many PDWs and pistols will generally have worse performance against you. It also reduces the one-shot chest kill range of bolt-action snipers by at least 12 meters, and up to almost 19 meters in the case of the 149-meter one-hit kill bolt-actions. After that, cover permits you to more accurately shoot, even when under fire, important for an LMG that relies so heavily on accurate shots. Flak can help mitigate players using explosives to dislodge you from your sniping position, like grenades or mortars. Unfortunately, in hardcore, the final unlock serves no purpose since there is no automatic health regen, but the overall package suits the U-100's playstyle too well to be passed up. That said, if you really want to take advantage of the support's unique field upgrades, you could also maybe justify picking the Perimeter Defense for the second upgrade that you unlock, which increases your ability to suppress targets. This is useful in particular for counter-sniping, as your shots will have a significant dampening effect on a sniper's ability to deal with you. The rest of the upgrades are unfortunately pretty terrible, with the first one being a marginally convenient, at best, ammo pool increase, the third upgrade increasing your claymores, something I generally advise against in hardcore, and a upgrade to the functionality of the MP-APS's recharge speed, which, if you find yourself targeted by tanks or rockets a lot, could have maybe some use. But the MP-APS is a fairly situational gadget with limited benefit for the U-100 over something that could instead take a passing tank out in the first place, like C4. With Perimeter Defense, you could also try to take full advantage by equipping both claymores and the MP-APS and building that aforementioned rocket sniping perch with a full set of 3 claymores protecting it. Just warn your teammates of the claymore's locations ahead of time and realize you will be giving up infinite rockets by skipping the ammo box. For the RPK-12, the best choice is offensive. Being able to sprint faster right off the bat will serve you well as an objective-oriented support player. The second perk unfortunately ends up being redundant since you have infinite ammo, though you may have some marginal utility and convenience. The second has the benefit of allowing you to spam 2 RGO impact grenades in a given moment, and the final upgrade can help you literally get the jump on targets at lower floors by allowing you to skip using the parachute, which can make noise and give you away. If you really want to be a team player and provide more convenient ammo access, however, indirect fire is an okay choice for the very first upgrade, which provides you an extra ammo box placement, which can suit the RPK-12's somewhat more aggressive objective playstyle. Keep in mind, after you die, ammo boxes disappear, so make sure you place one as soon as you deploy. With the indirect fire field upgrades selected, even if you place a new one later for your own needs, you are not depriving teammates of your original ammo box, which may be, say, 100 meters behind you. The rest of the upgrades that you unlock tend to be more marginal or just convenience upgrades, as they increase your ammo pool in a few ways and allow you to refill ammo while in a vehicle if friendlies run up directly to the vehicle. Out of every field upgrade in the game, though, this is probably one of the weakest, unfortunately, and I can't see myself suggesting it for anything but support builds that feature a particularly aggressive primary weapon where you expect to cover a lot of ground, or if you are the sort of player that dares to skip having the ammo box and runs both mortar and XM25 at the same time. Just keep in mind that you somewhat undermine the purpose of the class by doing so. I will say that if you were to do this, oddly enough, the RPK-12 wouldn't be a bad LMG for such a loadout, since you probably could get away with letting the weapon hit empty with its very short reload times to conserve your finite ammo. One additional note on the final upgrade: if you're flying or driving a transport vehicle and have engineers with an RPG-7 or a SMA as a passenger, they'll be able to refill their rocket ammo as they shoot, but this is something that requires some level of coordination to really capitalize on. The previously mentioned perimeter defenses selection last upgrade actually becomes marginally more useful with the RPK-12 since it's a more mobile-oriented weapon. If you have the MP-APS equipped and pass by a stationary tow launcher, you can place the MP-APS for some limited additional cover for dealing with tanks, but this is unlikely to be effective against experienced tankers, as they can use a machine gun to take down your MP-APS. The second upgrade, suppression, can be decently useful in a pre-fire and push context, though its impact will still be mainly felt by bolt-action snipers or maybe DMR users. As for general use tactics for these guns, you generally benefit a lot from going for headshots in middle ranges but center of mass for long ranges. You also should be constantly reloading to minimize the longer empty reloads these guns have, especially the U-100. The U-100 generally works best as a sort of lone wolf support, where you can act as a sniper, and the RPK-12 generally benefits from being used in the front lines with your team. So the U-100 is a defensive weapon, and the RPK-12 is an offensive weapon. You should almost never pre-fire the U-100 unless you are hip-firing in very close ranges or trying to cover for a retreat. The RPK-12, however, can make up for its mediocre close-range performance with pre-firing because of its large magazine and good long burst accuracy. That said, they're still both generally best suited for longer ranges. Just because the RPK-12 can play aggressively doesn't mean you will be favored to win in close-range battles. Make sure you keep some distance from your targets. You ideally should use the bipod on the U-100 as much as possible. If you find yourself using the weapon at ranges where the bipod is too clumsy or slow, you are probably too close range to really take advantage of its strengths as a gun. As for the RPK-12, moving while aimed down sights is really only advised before you actually begin firing. The moment you have a confirmed target or want to begin pre-firing on a small entrance, you should stop moving. In conclusion, these LMGs are some of the most long-range, fully automatic options available in BF4. If you want your fully automatic to maintain accuracy for long bursts, or even be able to challenge snipers with controlled bursts, these are the guns for you. If you want to be informed of future video releases by me, please consider subscribing and clicking the bell for notifications. Also consider liking the video if you enjoyed it. If there is something I missed, or you think I got wrong, or if you just want to contribute to discussion, please feel free to comment as well.